Welcome in, friends. I'm Reed Cowan. Okay, you see these video monitors here behind me? They're streaming your stories. And today, we've got our eye on Washington, D.C. and Joe Biden's candidacy. Also, video coming to the feeds from courtrooms and big trials in New York and New Mexico. This is CBS News 24/7. Let's go.
Democrats, we have engaged in a process of talking to each other. Those conversations have been candid, comprehensive, and clear-eyed, and they continue. Until that process has concluded, I'm not going to address what any outside stakeholders may have to say about this matter. House Democrats will win back control of the House of Representatives on November 5th and vacate the extreme MAGA Republican majority as long as we are able to clearly communicate our agenda of putting people over politics, lowering costs, growing the middle class, defending fundamental freedoms and democracy, and contrast that with the extreme MAGA Republican agenda, which will destroy working families and the middle class way of life as we know it.
All right, so you've been watching and listening to House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries there talking at a news conference. All eyes have been on Jeffries in recent hours because he has been talking to members of the Democratic caucus about the man you see here on the screen. We're talking, of course, about President Joe Biden. The erosion continues, not only in the public, but also more and more members of Congress starting to question the viability of Joe Biden's candidacy and whether he can beat Donald Trump after that terrible debate performance. Hakeem Jeffries giving that news conference, but now we understand sometime today he is going to transmit all of what he's getting from his Democratic caucus directly to President Joe Biden in a sit-down meeting. So everything Hakeem Jeffries has to say over the next 24 hours here on CBS News 24/7 streaming, we are going to bring it to you because some news may develop out of that. So we just got news also that a planned news conference with President Joe Biden has been pushed back. It is still happening today, but a couple of hours later than planned. President Biden's news conference is tonight at 6:30 Eastern, and our crews are at the ready. They will bring you the president on CBS News 24/7 after he has a series of very important meetings, not only at NATO, but a sit-down with Hakeem Jeffries. He also has a full schedule today. It is the last day of the NATO summit. The president is once again going to be meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy. That is happening very soon. And joining us now live is senior White House and political correspondent Ed O'Keefe. Okay, so Ed, this is some breaking news. You just obtained a memo from the Biden campaign this morning, which may give a little bit of a preview of what to expect from the president during his news conference later this afternoon.
Well, and more than anything, in the short-term read, it was designed to assuage the concerns of senators who are meeting with some of his top campaign aides this afternoon to go over the stakes and where they believe things stand. Perhaps three notable things out of this thing. First, they concede, yes, based on their own internal polling, which they do on a regular daily basis to sort of track where things are going, they did see slippage for the president after the debate, but not what they called, quote, a sea change. If anything, there was just depressed enthusiasm and support among elements of the Democratic Party that usually show up for a Democratic presidential candidate. Younger voters, female voters, minority voters. But the kind they believe 4 months from now, when the election's actually held, can be re-engaged and show up to vote. The other thing this memo suggests is that the Biden campaign is indeed doing its own polling on whether or not Vice President Harris could defeat Donald Trump in a general election matchup. We've seen some public polling in recent days that puts the president like 1, maybe 2 points ahead of where President Biden is against Trump and leading Trump. But because it's in the single digits, because it's national surveys, because it's registered voters or all voters nationally versus likely voters, it's essentially a wash and a statistical tie. The third thing they say, there's still a way to get to 270 electoral votes because ultimately that's the magic number on election night. They have to win Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin to make that happen. Then they think they can do well in other Sun Belt states, Arizona, Nevada, and some others across the country. So in essence, they're saying, yeah, it's been a rough 2 weeks, but it ain't over yet. And for now, at least, in their assessment, though you can appreciate that with the president's name on the door, they're going to end up with this kind of an assessment. They believe the president is still the best candidate to defeat Donald Trump.
Ed, yesterday we talked about that op-ed by George Clooney and how it had some teeth because he had been in the room, as it were, with Joe Biden, was able to sort of say what he saw face to face. We're also starting to take the temperature of what world leaders at NATO have had to say about Joe Biden, sort of in that same spirit. I was in the room with him. This was my observation. Any indication what world leaders are saying?
The leaders of Finland and the new Prime Minister of the United Kingdom both quoted in the last few hours as saying, no, based on the conversations I was involved in yesterday at the summit, he was engaged, he was substantive, he was on top of details. See no reason to believe that there's any concern with how he's engaging his contemporaries in NATO. That's their public statement. Would love to talk to them off camera, or there are people off camera who maybe observe this.
Right.
But it's an endorsement nonetheless, and one that matters because these are his contemporaries on the world stage. And they could signal concerns if they had them. They chose not to, or they have no reason to, at least so far. But the head of Finland, the head of the United Kingdom saying they see no cause for concern.
Also fascinating to think that those two leaders also know that if Donald Trump were to get in, he is no fan of NATO. Ed, we always appreciate getting a chance to talk to you. Thank you so much for that live update. You know, there are other headlines coming to us today from the Biden administration. This is news. GM and Stellantis getting a $1.7 billion boost to stop plant closures and really amp up building electric vehicles and get those on the roads. This money comes in the form of grants that will go to projects across 8 U.S. states. So let's look at what President Biden's rival for the presidency has planned for today. We just mentioned him with Ed O'Keefe, Donald Trump. He's meeting with Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban in Florida today. Now, this meeting is important to talk about because it's raising eyebrows. Think about this. The last big meeting Orban had was none other than with the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, in Moscow just less than a week ago. So Orban claims the meetings are to create peace, but some say these meetings actually give legitimacy to Russia and Vladimir Putin during his war and invasion in Ukraine. Hey, we've got some new video showing the impacts of Beryl in the Northeast coming to our monitors right now. And here's your headline as you look at that school there, waterlogged. Wild weather in New York. Remnants of Beryl left a mess in schools and also out on the roads. Look at that road just opened up there. This is video, by the way, out of Lewis County in the northern part of New York State. If you thought Beryl was done and the impacts were done, think again. Zoe here's to sign on the dotted line with that.
Yes, we do still have those impacts, but it's been a wild ride as Beryl made 3 landfalls in the Caribbean, in Mexico, and then up in Texas. And that is going to continue to mush its way across New England over the next 24 hours. But it's almost out of our hair. It is so close to being away, but it is still bringing the potential for some very heavy rainfall, torrential downpours on top of already about 6 inches of rain that has fallen in some locations across the East Coast. So that's something to keep in mind. And then you also notice this cold front. It's kind of stalling along the East Coast. And as it does so, it has the potential to drop even more heavy torrential rainfall across the Carolinas. So let's take a look at that because that's what we're most concerned about stepping out for the next 24 hours or so. And you can see right now where that cold front has begun to set up across the Carolinas. Again, it's extending all the way up into New England from the remnants of Beryl. And as it does so, it kind of is just stationary. It is sitting directly over eastern North Carolina. And as it does so, it is going to continue to bring them heavy rainfall, about 2 to 3 inches per hour. So that's something we're going to keep our eyes on as well. This line of stronger showers are developing. And you notice in eastern North Carolina, there's a lot of rivers. There is a lot of areas that have the potential to flood very quickly. So that's what we're keeping our eye on, not only river flooding, but also the areas that do have a lot of cement and anything that does have the potential to flood very quickly. Again, that's going to continue to very quickly move out of our hair over the next 24 hours. But until then, we are looking at that moderate risk for excessive rainfall. Again, upwards of 4 inches is possible over the next 6 hours or so, which is why we do have these widespread flood watches in effect. All things to keep in mind, make sure you stay safe, but at least Beryl should be out of our hair by as soon as tomorrow.
Zoe, okay, we're going to hold you to that. Video to our feed showed you New York, but look at this. It is deja vu. You're looking at central Vermont right now and even hearing it. Listen to that water. Flash flooding ripped through communities a year to the day after the same thing happened in the same place. This is video out of Barrie, about 45 miles away from Burlington. CBS News correspondent Tom Hansen on the road and on the stream live today in Waterbury, Vermont, with how people are navigating. And what's been fascinating is to watch. You've actually followed Beryl as it's barreled through Jamaica and other places, and now you are in a place in Vermont. And I see you've got your wading boots out again, my friend.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Well, we said hello to Beryl, and now hopefully we are saying goodbye to the remnants of Beryl. But it's just a testament to how these weather systems operate. They do not stop when they make landfall, Reed. They continue on. They create trouble down the road, far, far away from the tropics where they often make landfall to begin with. And I want to show you what we're seeing here. This is what should be a baseball field. You can see that the water is up to my shins. It's been receding, and it's been receding quickly. But here's an idea of how high it once was. Check out this water line. You can see where the leaves change color right there. That is well above my head, and that should give you a real sense of what people were looking at here overnight with that very concentrated rain system, 4 inches in just a matter of hours. And this system did, in fact, turn deadly. We've reached out to the governor's office. They did confirm that at least one person has died from a flood-related issue about an hour east of here. We do not know any other information at this time, and of course we're pressing them to get more of those details to you. But think about this. We are in a mountainous terrain here. So wherever that rain hits in these mountain ranges, right, that has to go somewhere. That is these low-lying areas like Waterbury, where we are right now. There's more rain in the forecast too. People here are on pins and needles in the municipalities surrounding Waterbury as well, because that's all areas that have been impacted by this powerful system that has blown through the area, Reed. So we're going to be monitoring that very closely in the coming hours.
All right, Tom Hansen, once again, excellent work, and we hope it is bye-bye to Beryl. Thank you so much. Hey, when we come back, we're going to be talking to CBS senior congressional correspondent Scott MacFarlane. He's going to have the latest out of Washington, D.C., as so many people scrutinize every word and every move by President Joe Biden. You're watching CBS News 24/7, streaming coast to coast and worldwide. We're back in just a minute. All eyes on House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries right now, because he has been hearing from his Democratic caucus on the viability and the confidence of Joe Biden's campaign for re-election for the presidency. He's facing a tough candidate, Donald Trump. The polling is showing they are neck and neck. And we just had an opportunity to hear from Mr. Jeffries, and none other than CBS News congressional correspondent Scott MacFarlane was in the room. Give us an idea of whether you felt confidence from Mr. Jeffries about Joe Biden's viability as a candidate.
Yeah, the House Democratic Caucus chair acknowledged there are concerns inside his party, among his colleagues, among his members about the president's viability for November. He made clear there are conversations ongoing about his viability going toward November. But the House leader also didn't lay out a specific plan as to what the party will try to do to unify, because there are clearly fractures here. There are some number of members who say the president is the nominee, he should have everybody's support, and that the page should be turned. But just before the House Democratic leader took the podium, a 10th House Democrat announced publicly and declared publicly she believes the president should simply withdraw. Hillary Shelton, a West Michigan first-term Democrat, joined the others, saying there's no path toward victory ahead. So that schism remains. But what struck me most in the room, in what was about a 20 to 30-minute news conference, was almost every question was focused on this topic. This is not something the House Democratic leader wants to be talking about. He wants to get on message. He's got priorities. He wants to regain the majority. This is not the focus he would have chosen.
Right, and a lot of members of Congress are in races of their own, and they are seeing the impacts, the ripple effects. Scott MacFarlane, we always appreciate hearing from you, fresh from hearing Hakeem Jeffries. Thank you so much. So our cameras are bringing us video out of Texas, where a manhunt is underway right now. This story in the killing of a Harris County deputy. Police were on the hunt for a suspect connected to the assault of a Little Caesars employee, and 28-year-old deputy Fernando Escueda ambushed and shot to death. So look at this. This comes to us via social platform X. Police say Ronnie Palmer is their person of interest. By the way, Palmer's also wanted for aggravated assault. This is a nationwide manhunt, so if you see Palmer, call police. Our video feed's also taking us to Milwaukee and the funeral of 43-year-old Devontae Mitchell. You can see right there, live in real time, Reverend Al Sharpton talking to the grieving there. Mitchell died last month after hotel security pinned him to the ground. The DA investigating this death as a homicide. By the way, Hyatt fired the employees involved, but this was all caught on camera, and that is some of what Reverend Sharpton is talking about. We also understand some of Mr. Mitchell's family saw the footage. Listen to their reaction.
I couldn't take it, you know what I mean? Like watching it, hearing his voice, hearing him yell for help, begging them to stop. It was just heartbreaking. I need charges brought. I need somebody to be arrested.
CBS News correspondent Roxana Saberi joins us live from Milwaukee. Roxana, any indication, we are seeing Reverend Al Sharpton speak inside the church right now, but any indication when that video could be released to the public?
We don't know yet, Reed. That is the short answer. Ben Crump, an attorney for the Mitchell family, said that he wants to get that video shown to the public. The family told us the same thing. Devontae's sister, Naisha, told us that yesterday. CBS News has requested to see that video. They put out a request to Hyatt Regency Hotel as well as the DA's office, and we are still waiting to hear back. It is important that we get to see that video as well, because what has been described by both Ben Crump and Naisha, Devontae's big sister, was that that video showed that Devontae was actually being chased and that he was not creating a disturbance or fighting back, and instead he was trying to shield himself from what they said were brooms and a baton.
Wow. Roxana Saberi, thank you so much for that update. And as soon as that video comes to us, of course, on CBS News 24/7, we'll bring it to you. Also, another day of heat and fire for firefighters out west. We will ride our live video stream out west for a fire update when I come back. All right, so let's take you to California and that massive lake fire now approaching 30,000 acres burned. Here's the word there. 3,000 firefighters are now doing battle right now with this fire, and they're using engines and bulldozers and planes to try to get this one out. They're fighting the fire in some pretty scorching temperatures, and as we look at that right there, you can see the flames are still feeding huge plumes of smoke. No improvement to report overnight. Containment still at 16%. And the people under that smoke cloud know they have to get out. They're still under evacuation warnings, many of them heeding that and leaving their homes. And since we updated you last, we can now tell you 4 buildings damaged and that many people also injured. Let's get video off the feeds right now from another fire in California. This is the view of the Vista Fire in San Bernardino County. This one is at 2,300 acres and spreading in the heat. We can tell you another army is there, more than 400 firefighters fighting. So far, no containment at all, and the risk of this one reaching homes is also high, Zoe, and you can see just that steep terrain, and we know the temperatures there in San Bernardino are hot.
Yeah, the worst thing for wildfires is above average temperatures, it's the low humidity, and it's the winds. And unfortunately, those 3 things in combination are really helping to peak that wildfire danger all across the western United States, the place that is dealing with a lot of heat right now. In fact, there is a huge heat dome, the same one that's been impacting us for the past week or so. It is just staying stagnant across the West Coast. It's bringing them widespread advisories as well, especially for places like California, down into Arizona and Nevada. And speaking of California, we're going to go off to Amber Lee, who's in Los Angeles right now, to get even more of those details.
Thanks, Zoe. It's been the hottest period ever here in Southern California since we've been keeping records, and the heat continues this afternoon. Excessive heat warnings and heat advisories will expire later tonight, but one of the hardest hit areas, our high desert communities, will see these excessive heat warnings until Saturday. And this is the reason why. We're talking temperatures again at about 110 degrees for both Lancaster, Palmdale, and the Victor Valley area. While you can see for the rest of the map, temperatures are hot, just not quite as hot as what we're dealing with in the high deserts. And with the high desert communities, days, we actually saw a lot of records being broken. They had 6 consecutive days of 110 degrees or more for both Lancaster and Palmdale. The streak was finally broken yesterday when they topped out at 109. But today they're looking at another 110-degree day. They'll continue to stay above 110 through tomorrow. And then finally, we're looking at temperatures cooling. They don't get out of the triple digits until possibly Tuesday of next week. Inland Empire is still warm, just not quite as hot as the high deserts. But the good news is that we start to see the biggest cool down starting Sunday.
Luckily, yeah, some relief is on the way, but we'll keep our eyes on that heat very closely, Reed.
Yeah, especially knowing firefighters out battling fire in that triple-digit temperature. Hey, when we come back, we've got a peek into a high-level meeting between President Joe Biden and Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelenskyy. We'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back to CBS News 24/7. We understand President Joe Biden and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy have met on the final day of the NATO summit. So joining us live now from the State Department is CBS News intelligence and national security reporter Olivia Gassis. Okay, so fresh from the meeting, what did they say as they shook hands and parted on this last day?
That's right, Reed. It was a brief meeting. This was the first time that we heard from President Biden, not the first time we've seen him. He's been taking part in some other public events today, but he spoke briefly alongside the Ukrainian president. He spoke from notes for about 2 minutes, a part of the time, praising Zelenskyy for blunting Russian aggression, praising him for holding them off from taking over the northeastern city of Kharkiv in Ukraine. The president announced a new security package, the 8th to date that he has signed. He looked over at his aides to say, you guys will provide the details later. And after Zelenskyy had finished making his remarks, the president also said, we will stick with you, period. So it was just a brief glimpse, a very brief availability between the two men. The president did appear to respond to shouted questions at the conclusion of this availability. His mic was turned off, so it's very hard to know what he actually said. Of course, he's appearing on the world stage and under a microscope as everybody is looking ahead to his 6:30 p.m. solo press availability. That will happen later this evening.
And that's the benefit of being here on CBS News 24/7. We appreciate you here on the stream because you saw it, and now our viewers get to hear about it. Olivia, thank you so much. So meanwhile, as mentioned, President Joe Biden will be holding a rare solo news conference tonight. You just heard Olivia talk about that. So the White House is hoping to assure Democrat Party members as questions about whether Joe Biden should be the rival nominee to Donald Trump. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries spoke about this earlier. Listen.
Throughout this week, as House Democrats, we have engaged in a process of talking to each other. Those conversations have been candid, comprehensive, and clear-eyed, and they continue. Until that process has concluded, I'm not going to address what any outside stakeholders may have to say about this matter.
Sir, how much longer can you allow the groping to go on before it ultimately wounds him?
House Democrats, Senate Democrats, and President Biden are unified on the affirmative agenda that we have for the American people related to lowering housing costs or ending price gouging or growing the middle class, defending democracy, and fighting for reproductive freedom. President Biden, House Democrats, and Senate Democrats are also united in pushing back against Project 2025 and the extreme MAGA Republican agenda. That's unifying, not dividing us.
Leader Jeffries, President Biden has said he's staying in this race, but after your conversations throughout this week, do you think it's time for him to reconsider that based on what you're hearing?
Our conversations have been candid, comprehensive, and clear-eyed, and they are ongoing.
Leader Jeffries, you said that...
Hold on.
Leader Jeffries,
right there. You.
Oh, thank you, Leader Jeffries. I do want to ask, so you have another frontliner coming out today, Congresswoman Hillary Scalton, calling for Biden to step aside. You have Greg Landsman saying that he's getting closer to that conclusion. Are you worried that Biden is a liability for your most vulnerable members?
No.
Do you think that Democrats still have a path to winning back the House if Biden stays at the top of the ticket?
House Democrats will win back control of the House of Representatives on November 5th and vacate the extreme MAGA Republican majority as long as we are able to clearly communicate our agenda of putting people over politics, lowering costs, growing the middle class, defending fundamental freedoms and democracy, and contrast that with the extreme MAGA Republican agenda, which will destroy working families and the middle class way of life as we know it.
All right. So we're also understanding the president will be doing a second major network interview next Monday as he seeks to reassure allies and the public and the Democratic caucus, of which Hakeem Jeffries is listening closely to, that Joe Biden is up to the job to beat Donald Trump. So let's look at what Donald Trump is about to be doing. Biden's rival for the presidency also has a lot planned for today. Donald Trump meeting with Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban in Florida. So why are we talking about this? This meeting is raising some eyebrows because the last big meeting Orban had was with none other than Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow less than a week ago. Orban claims these meetings are to create peace, but some say these meetings actually give legitimacy to Russia and to Vladimir Putin at a crucial time during Russia's war in Ukraine. Let's go from international news to national news now, moving on with the remnants of Beryl. This is a picture right now, Oswego, New York, about 40 miles away from Syracuse. Lightning struck a lighthouse during the storm. The photographer called it a 1 in a million picture, but this just shows you Mother Nature's still stirring the pot overhead, Zoe.
Oh, yeah, it is pretty crazy how big of a punch Beryl packed all across the United States, and not just the United States, down in the Caribbean, down in Mexico. It started well over a week ago, and it is still impacting us today. As we can see, the clouds are definitely moving across the eastern coast of the United States. It's not packing as big of a punch today as what it did yesterday, where it dropped upwards of 4 to 6 inches in about 3 to 6 hours in some location. Widespread flash flooding did take place, but today there is still the chance for a little bit of flooding, especially closer to the closer to the Carolina coastal regions, and that's what is going to be seeing this cold front setting up and really impacting them. Eastern North Carolina is going to be seeing the biggest chance for severe weather and some flooding risks as well. So if we take a look at that right now, Beryl still sitting up across the Northeast, but again, not nearly as impressive as what we were dealing with yesterday. It's by the time that we step out later today that we are going to be seeing this line of showers and thunderstorms developing across far eastern North Carolina, and this is going to be the biggest issue when it comes to heavy rainfall. They could potentially see upwards of 4 inches in only 3 hours. That is very, very heavy torrential rainfall, and it's stationary. It's kind of just sitting directly over North Carolina all day today into tomorrow as well. So that's something to keep your eye on. It's extending all the way from where Beryl is departing across New England. But again, it is going to be impacting the eastern North Carolina coast directly with that moderate risk for some heavy rainfall, torrential downpours, and flooding risks. Is why they do have widespread flash flood warnings in effect for eastern North Carolina. And you notice those inlets, those those areas that you see a lot of rivers. That's going to be a huge concern too. River flooding, where many rivers have already reached their peak, and they're going to continue to over the next couple of hours. So keep that in mind today. Flooding is going to be a big issue, but at least Beryl is going to be out of our hair by tomorrow. Reed.
All right, so the video monitors that are always here fired up are now taking us to this scene. This is Barry, Vermont, where the people who live there, this is their reality. They are dealing with a disaster flooding after Beryl. And keep in mind, this is just 1 year after Mother Nature's catastrophic rainfall hit. The city's mayor, Tom Lawson, tells us they'll do everything they can to take care of their city. Listen.
Take care of each other, check on your neighbors. I mean, listen, we are all anxious right now. But right now, we're at the mercy of Mother Nature. We are ready. We're prepared. We're staged up. We're going to take care of you, but take care of each other.
That's a heartbeat of America right there. We'll take care of each other, even in the face of record rainfall. Firefighters out, even rain or shine, they're there, reminding us all who we are. You know, some communities, by the way, were told to evacuate as roads were flooded, some carrying even debris where people were walking or trying to walk. In fact, we understand more than 100 people who were trying to do that had to be pulled from the waters, reminding us all when you see rain, when you see ponding or rushing water, just stay out of it. Similar scenes in Ruidoso, New Mexico, where rushing waters took over the roads, pushing and picking up anything that it could see in the way. In fact, emergency vehicles had to act fast. They're trying to make their way to help those in need. These are just a few places in our country dealing with these dangerous conditions. In fact, heavy rains hammering India, where floodwaters are gripping parts of the capital of New Delhi. So it's not just us in the United States. We're understanding that on our screen is the aftermath as a lot of residents waded through flooded areas and neighborhoods. In fact, somebody there in India says the flooding began after a section of a nearby canal broke. And you can see there, that is the result. The infrastructure nowhere near what it is in the United States and many parts of the world. So they're going to be waiting for this water to recede there in India. By the way, they are also listening to warnings that continued rainfall soon could make the situation worse. We're understanding water levels could rise to dangerous high levels, as if this isn't dangerous enough in India, all across that region. So we are a world community. We will be watching that and the impacts of record rainfall in India. Let's jump over to France, where the spire of this Gothic cathedral in France caught fire today. Look at that. Pretty crazy to see. You can see those black plumes of smoke riding out of the top of that cathedral. Now, firefighters were able to get the fire under control. This is a beautiful historic building. You see the plastic elements there at the top of that cathedral spire? We understand that they were combusting when they arrived on scene, and a lot of onlookers there taking pictures. In fact, those pedestrians who watched as that France cathedral caught fire say it was a scary and familiar sight. Remember this. This is why. This was top of mind. I thought about it. Surely you at home did as well. Notre Dame Cathedral, that burned back in 2019. And we all, as a world community, gathered around our television sets and watched on our computers. Bystanders, whether in person or virtually, as the Notre Dame went up in flames. We now know that a great deal of work has been put in to restore Notre Dame, and hopefully the other cathedral we just told you about will also be restored. All right, we're riding our video feeds, watching the Alec Baldwin trial, and we're going to be taking you there in the courtroom. So many details being revealed to that jury as both sides make their case. If Alec Baldwin is convicted, he could actually end up behind bars. We're watching that one closely. We'll be back. All right, we have some breaking news. You see actress Shelley Duvall there on your screen, and we understand she has passed away. Duvall, known best for the famous horror film The Shining. She has passed away. In a statement given to CBS, no cause of death given, but we understand Duvall suffered a lot in her life, especially in the last few years. She worked in a lot of movies like the 1970s Brewster McCloud, Nashville, and The Forest Hills, which was her last film role. She also made that famous appearance on the Dr. Phil show where she revealed her struggles with mental health issues. Shelley Duvall, gone from our world at the age of 75. Our video feed's taking us to Milwaukee and the funeral of 43-year-old Devontae Mitchell. Reverend Al Sharpton spoke just a short time ago to people who are there mourning and who are upset by what happened. So let's take you back in time. Last month, hotel security in that town pinned him to the ground. The DA investigating this death as a homicide right now. By the way, that Hotel Hyatt fired the employees involved. But here is some of what Reverend Al Sharpton had to say. We were able to turn this sound around. Let's go.
You should not lose just your job when Devontae lost his life. What they did was a crime. And criminals need to be prosecuted. And criminals need to face the penalty of their actions. This wasn't a mistake at the job. This was taking somebody's life, and there is no justice till you pay for the life you've taken.
So what Reverend Al Sharpton is talking about is what he was told by Devontae's family. Now, keep in mind, this was caught on video, but the video has yet to be released to the public. But what the family told CBS News is that they could hear Devontae crying for help and that he was held down and told the people that were holding him down, that he needed help. The family says he was not given. Our reporter there at the scene outside the funeral says we are awaiting whether police will release that video to the public. We understand it's very difficult to watch, but we are watching this story in real time as it plays out. Once again, looking live in that funeral for Devontae Mitchell. Our camera's also bringing us video out of Texas, where a manhunt is underway in the killing of a Harris County deputy. Here's the backstory on this. Police were hunting down a suspect that was connected to the assault of a Little Caesars employee. But in that fray, 28-year-old Deputy Fernando Escueda was ambushed and shot to death. But look at this. This comes to us from the social platform X. Police say Ronnie Palmer is their person of interest. This is what police gave to the public. By the way, Palmer is also wanted for aggravated assault. This is a nationwide manhunt, so police say, look, if you have seen this man that you're seeing on the screen that police released to social media via the platform X, please call them immediately. Let's jump to a trial that is a talker. Of course, it's the trial for embattled Senator Bob Menendez out of New Jersey. So this is a pivotal day. Today, the fate of Menendez is going into the hands of the jury. So the jury will go into that room, and here's really what they have to decide. They have to decide whether they believe prosecutors' case of conspiracy to put the senator's power and influence up for sale, or the case from Menendez's attorneys that the senator was just doing his job and that precaution was taken, that he was not doing anything wrong, and that instead the prosecution is peddling a salacious story of political corruption. So you see Mr. Menendez leaving court there. We are awaiting to see what the jury has to say, what they will do in the coming days. We are at the end of the week, and oftentimes at the end of the week, jury watch is important. We'll have the latest updates as we get more. Now this. It is our promise to you. It is our commitment to you. Our Eye in America series in your communities where you live. We're listening to and telling your stories, looking at the issues you face today. So let's go to Wyoming. A highway collapsed outside of Jackson Hole last month in the shadow of the Grand Tetons. It threw a spotlight on two very different Americas, often lived in side by side. In the United States, the top 1% now owns nearly as much wealth as the bottom 90% combined. As CBS's Mark Strassman shows you, Wyoming is home to one of the country's wealthiest communities and also one of the most unequal.
In Jackson Hole, Wyoming's Shangri-La in the Tetons, you need silly money to be taken seriously.
A family like mine can't live here. Not even an inkling of a chance.
John Smaley's a construction supervisor in Jackson. Like so many workers here, he can only afford to live on the other side of these mountains, priced out of Jackson Hole's new Gilded Age. Vacationing one-percenters competing for a second home or a fourth.
The billionaires are buying out the millionaires.
It sounds crazy.
It does. You're making a great wage anywhere else in the country, but here you're poverty-stricken.
For most people here, real estate prices are wildly unaffordable. This county's median income is $108,000 a year, but the average listing price of a single-family home is more than $7 million. Driving home the inequality, Smaley's commute over this mountain pass from his house in Driggs, Idaho. It's an hour drive or more to downtown Jackson with its Old West charm and sticker shock. That's where we met Jessica Sell Chambers.
A lot of these stores, your average working person, this is not for us.
She's a Jackson Town Council member and mayoral candidate. Sell Chambers told us this downtown project is typical. Luxury short-term rentals.
What would you like it to be?
I would love it to be a multi-family, affordable housing.
But that would have been costly and was never an option.
This is beyond gentrification. This is super gentrification.
You can make $200,000, $300,000 a year and not afford to live here.
Correct. It's unsustainable, too. Who's going to run the place? Who's going to work and be the backbone of all the services?
Even for people with all the money in the world, there's a moment of reckoning coming.
Yes.
That moment flashed briefly last month. The mountain pass collapsed, 80 feet of it gone. A landslide impassable for 3 weeks, further separating the two worlds.
You're on the TV.
feeling it in Driggs, Idaho, Pete and Sarah Wilson and their daughter Harper. Sarah's a media creative director. Pete's a firefighter paramedic in Jackson, their hometown.
You feel excluded from the place you grew up in?
100%.
Yeah.
I'm the help, even though I'm a firefighter paramedic. Once we're done doing the job, we're expected to kick rocks, get lost.
If you're looking at the American dream or whatever, if you work hard enough, you can have what you want, but you can't.
It's not just gone for now, it's gone forever.
It's gone forever.
Sel Chambers' Jackson home has exploded in value, but the property taxes may drive her family out.
We don't want to go anywhere. The money is not important to us, it's the community.
The mountain pass has reopened. The divide stays in place. For Eye on America, Mark Strassman in Jackson, Wyoming.
All right, so let's keep you out west and jump the map right now to California, updating you on that massive lake fire. We understand right now the fires burned 30,000 acres. In fact, 3,000 firefighters are right there going toe-to-toe with the flames. They're using engines and bulldozers, even dropping fire retardant and water from the sky. But while they do this, we understand they're fighting scorching temperatures and no improvement to report overnight. Containment is still at 16% as people are running from the flames, leaving their homes. Yesterday at the same time, we told you 16% as well. There are also new warnings because we can tell you 4 buildings have been damaged and that many people have been injured. This is a fierce firefight. We also right now want to give you video off of our feeds of another fire California firefighters face, and this is new video, the view of the Vista Fire. This is in San Bernardino County. Look how steep the flames are. They are literally chewing uphill and smoke as a result. This one right now at 2,300 acres and spreading. More than 400 firefighters fighting this one, but so far zero containment. And right now there is risk that this fire could reach some of the homes in those higher elevations. And once again, we punctuate gratitude for firefighters all over our country because in many cases, they're not only fighting the fires, Zoe, they're doing it in extreme temperatures.
Oh, yes. That's just one of the variables when it comes to wildfire threats. It's these extreme temperatures, very dry air, and the winds. All 3 of those in combination are really allowing that chance for wildfire danger to spread. But it's not just the West Coast that is seeing the chance for the wildfires and the heat. It's the East Coast as well. They were dealing with the oppressive humidity, and the dry air is going to be western parts of the United States. So that's something to keep in mind. The heat really going to continue to build out west. So this is where all of our concerns are. All of our eyes are going to be on western parts of the U.S. And you might notice Las Vegas, 118 degrees this afternoon. Just to put things into perspective, the high temperature of all time before Sunday was 117 degrees. On Sunday, they reached 120, and since then, it has been at or above their all-time record high all week long. And today, 118 degrees. The heat is really excessive. It is oppressive, and it's going to continue throughout the next couple of days. So that's something to keep your eye on. The heat, it's not going anywhere, at least across the central United States. So all things to keep your eye on, and make sure you are weather aware. Practice that heat safety. Make sure to drink a lot of water, and do not forget the sunscreen, sunglasses, all that stuff as well. All those things to keep in mind. Reed.
Excessive and oppressive. Thank you, Zoe. We have an opportunity right now to deliver on our promise to take you live to New Mexico. We are keeping our eyes on the Alec Baldwin trial. Jurors just recessed a moment ago to go to lunch, but when they do, fresh on their mind, some testimony from a crime scene photographer who was able to take pictures not only of the gun, but also of the aftermath. And just a reminder, Inside Edition Stream has this trial minute by minute. You can find that on insideedition.com/live. You're watching CBS News 24/7. Thanks for watching.